This video will guide you through how VisionWorks, our next-generation life planning software, can take your financial planning business to the highest level.
Thank you for your time today. This week's webinar will focus on brain-based technology that helps clients create their vision of life. From your client's perspective, it's the most important step in the planning process. In an earlier email in our series, we talked about the client 99, what clients think and talk about 99% of the time, their homes, lifestyle, family, and career. We like to call this the dinner table conversation. It's about the here and now decisions clients are trying to make. For example, we want to renovate the kitchen. How much can we afford to spend? What are the long-term implications of the expense? In other words, the dinner table conversation is rarely about retirement planning, and yet it's become the focus of the financial services industry. As you'll also recall, in an earlier email, we used an excerpt from a webinar we did on May 30th with Paul Armstrong. Paul claims that to create a proper plan, you must wear three hats: that of a life planner, financial planner, and financial advisor. Paul's message is that a life plan should begin with a conversation about a client's story, how they got to where they are now in life and where they want to go. What we call a wants in life conversation. The issue we want to examine today is what techniques you use to help clients clarify their wants. We propose that this requires next generation life planning software that's designed to help clients create an emotionally engaging, vivid, and compelling vision of life. We know that when you ask clients to describe their goals, they'll rarely volunteer half a dozen clear and actionable goals. As a result, most advisors develop a script, a list of questions they ask clients. But a script has limitations. For example, if a question is not asked, an important want could be neglected. Also, questions are usually limited to what can be entered into the planning software. In our search for a more effective approach, we developed the VisionWorks button-driven visioning technology. It's based on how the brain works. As we've often discussed, the wants that each of us have thought about in the past are stored in our brain as what are called neural firing patterns. Necessarily, the neurons where the wants are stored are dormant until they're activated. If they weren't dormant, all of our past thoughts would be active at the same time, which would be pure chaos. On the vision page, the homes, lifestyle, family, and career buttons are used interactively with clients to help them create their vision of life. What clients see stimulates the neurons where past wants are stored. This is what helps clients identify what they have and do now and what they'd like to have and do in the future. My favorite example of this is vehicles. We might have a conversation with clients about the vehicles that they drive, and they might identify, for example, a van and an SUV. But when they look over the array of choices, they see motorhomes and might say, add a motorhome. We've talked about one in retirement. I doubt very much that in a script, any advisor would ever say, let's talk about vehicles. What do you drive now or want to drive in the future? Cars, vans, sport utilities, sports cars, trucks, motorcycles, snowmobiles, watercraft, motorhomes, etc. It would be extremely tedious. And therefore, things that clients might want to have or do are dropped out of the plan. So let's have a look at vacations, and specifically a winter vacation. As you make vision entries, you quantify them with clients. This is particularly important because many entries can change over time. Now, I'm just going to reset this back to the typical approach. What do you spend on vacations, where clients will give you a number, and then you put it in a field in the software. And in our particular approach, of course, what we talk about is being able to change entries over time. So let's have a look at this, and let's have a look at why it's so important. It may well be that clients want to spend more on winter vacations once they retire. They have more free time. So rather than $5,000, we'll just assume it's $10,000. And when we save that, we can immediately see the impact on the plan, the before and after. But this is assuming that there is active spenders on those vacations late in life. 90, 95 is when they first retire. And of course, that's highly improbable. So we're able then to change the entry to something that really reflects what is more likely for clients. And the important thing then is by changing entries over time, we're not assuming as big a drawdown on the retirement assets late in life. So when we click the save button, we see that this is all recalculated and what an impact that will make. It's also our belief that for plans to have enduring value and not simply be an exercise in math, they have to be emotionally engaging for clients. So another brain-based characteristic is that we think in terms of mental images. For example, if I say winter vacation, your brain, at least briefly, constructs a mental image of what a winter vacation means to you. For me, I'm on a beach in Cuba. I want to talk a little bit about other things that are equally as important, specifically how the brain not only constructs mental images, but the area of the brain that does that is tightly linked to the area of the brain responsible for our emotions. And what's interesting about this is that the brain can't tell time. It creates a mental image, and that mental image, it doesn't matter in an example of a wedding if a child is 6 or if a child is 26. When the brain constructs the mental image of a child's wedding, you have an emotion. And it's these emotions that engage clients in the plan. So I want to compare that with a graphically driven approach with a conversation, just with a series of scripted questions. There's a significant difference in client engagement. And why is it so important that a plan is emotionally engaging? Without emotional engagement, clients can easily stray from their plan because of short-term desires. But when clients are emotionally attached to their plan, they're better able to make long-term values-based decisions that are aligned with achieving what matters most to them in life. Very simply expressed, if we spend money on certain things, they're better able to understand, even though those things may be attractive to them now, they're going to be spending money and in a way sacrificing their ability to provide the education they want for children, to have the wedding they want for children, to take the winter vacations that they eventually want, and so on. So it's about helping clients create a structure that is engaging for them to the degree that they can really much more effectively make values-based long-term decisions. I also want to briefly relate this visioning approach to the issue of questionnaires. Questionnaires are a major impediment in the planning process. Clients always see questionnaires as an unwanted and unpleasant task. There are a few reasons for this. First, when placed at the beginning of the planning process, clients are not motivated to complete them. Clients don't properly complete questionnaires merely because you request their financial data. Second, a sufficiently deep relationship may not yet exist. Clients may not feel comfortable providing you with highly personal data. And third, if planning software is robust, a question must be included for everything that the software can model. But lengthy questionnaires immediately create client resistance. The solution is to move questionnaires to the middle of the life planning process and customize them for each client. This is another good example of what we mean by software design. So how does this work? Well, I'm going to create a home renovation. So I'm just going to call this build and addition. And then I'll just assume that we're going to spend $100,000 on it next year, 2023. So let me back up for a second. I want you to notice that that entry has a little blue marker on it. So the way the software works is that any vision entries have blue markers, build an addition, but any hard data entries, things like property taxes and operating expenses, have red markers beside them. So when we quantify an entry, a vision type entry, what happens is its marker turns from blue to gray. And as you can see by the legend, anything that's quantified is in gray. So how does this work when it comes to the questionnaires? What happens is anything that is not quantified, that is in either blue or red, is automatically added to a customized questionnaire. So when we went in, for example, and quantified the addition entry, that a question about it was automatically dropped off the questionnaire. Whereas we can see that the red hard data entries, which we did not quantify with clients, they're not conversational, they're boring, they're things that clients need to go and look up. Those are the questions that are still on the questionnaire. So every question that we provide for clients is very specific to them, no generic questionnaire. This keeps the questionnaire short and more meaningful for clients. So the point is, when questionnaires are placed in the middle of the planning process, clients are far more motivated to complete them. They've created their vision of life and are engaged and curious. They want to know if they're acting effectively to achieve their vision. And the only way they can find out is to supply you with all the required data so you can generate a financial forecast. So those are the things we wanted to talk about today. The whole advantage of taking a visually driven approach to creating a vision of life. It's based on how the brain works, and combining it with how we can construct personalized questionnaires for clients in order to get past that whole issue of client resistance to questionnaires. I'm going to jump to something else, and I just want to present this as something that you can think about. So what I want you to notice is that we've been actually using what we refer to here as the financial planning interface. And we call it the financial planning interface because when you create an entry, you also have the ability to select that entry and then quantify it. So when you're working on your own, you're just trying to get things loaded into the computer, the ability to create entries, put in the data, and so on is obviously extremely efficient. But I'm going to switch to the life planning interface, which is different. And the reason that it's different, if we go down to the joint tab, for example, and we go to build an addition, is that when I click on the entry, no entry panel comes up that allows me to quantify the entry. What we're doing here is we're separating the conversation about your wants in life from the conversation about what wants will cost. And the reason is that a conversation about wants is right brain. It's all about us imagining the future, whereas quantifying wants is very left brain. It's about numbers. So the whole approach then is one where we can go through, talk about the things that you want to have and do in life, just throw them in. Obviously, this would be, renovate the kitchen, renovate the master bathroom, it would be specific types of entries. So we would just be putting those in. And then what we do, and we would use the same approach with financials, I have 2 RRSPs, whatever it might be. But then when we go to the details page, I want you to notice that there are 2 tabs. One is vision, one is data. And if we go to the vision tab, now we can go in and quantify the vision entries. If we go to the data tab, that's where we would go in and quantify the hard data entries. So let's go back to the house. We can now see property taxes and operating expenses. So the whole concept around life planning is really first to have a conversation with people about their vision of life, the things they want to have and do without regard for the numbers, and then go to details, have the conversation about the wants. When do you want to do it? What do you think it's going to cost? In other words, shift from a right brain way of thinking to a left brain way of thinking. And then you'll notice that when we go to data, what we can then do, because we just have the hard data left, is we can then print the questionnaires, and it's the same thing, only those hard data entries are going to be on the questionnaire. So I just want you to be aware that there are 2 different interface styles that you can use. And what we want you to grasp first is how the software works, how the entry panels work, how you can use the buttons to have a stimulating conversation with people about their wants in life and so on. But once you've mastered all of that, I really encourage you to look at the life planning interface, because it actually is, again, based on how the brain works, right brain versus left brain. If you say to somebody, what do you want? When do you want it? What will it cost? What else do you want? When do you want that? What will that cost? You're actually bouncing their brain back and forth between 2 different ways of thinking, right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain. And quite literally, it tires the brain. So just having a conversation about wants, everything right brain, and then switching to details and vision entries, and then talking about when do you want to do that, what will it cost, is actually an even more effective brain-based technology for working with clients. By the way, once I'm in this life planning interface, if I want to switch back to financial planning, I need to open the menu. This is a very standard menu symbol. So I can open the menu, go to the main page, and then I can switch back to the financial planning interface. If I'm in the financial planning interface, which has, of course, the menu bar, then I just need to go to interface style and make the change. But if I want to switch back, then I open the menu, go to the main page, which is where I am now, and then I can switch back to the financial planning interface. So most of the time when we talk about the software and its use to get you to the point of being effective with it, we use the financial planning interface. But what you'll see is if we go to the website in support, that we have the VisionWorks training, and at the bottom, after financial plans and so on, then there's a whole section on how to do life plans using the life planning approach. And it runs through all of that. So other questions? If not, I hope this has been of some use to you, gives you the idea behind the whole button-driven approach. It's very effective. I was working with a client yesterday. She said that they were dealing with one of their clients who's very difficult, and they took the whole visioning approach, and the client was thrilled, found it really effective, and appreciated the value that the planner was bringing to the table by taking this approach. Just so much more engaging for clients than, the usual questionnaire at the beginning of the process and the scripted, what do you want to have them do conversation that most advisors take with clients. So thanks again for your time, and I wish you a good weekend.
Book a demo. We'd be happy to show you more of VisionWorks' incredible features.